You're listening to Big Blend Radio's English Connection Show with Glynn Burrows, owner of Norfolk Tours. Bird's the word in England. That's what we're talking about today. It is National Birding Day today in the United States, but for many of us, birding is an everyday thing, and we love to watch birds. They're super important when we think about what is going on in our environment. And it's a great way to get outside, and it's a great thing to get kids involved with to start to learn about the regional habitats. And I have a lot of friends who travel the world seeking that life bird. They have their list, and
Oh,
it may be
yes.
a sparrow, and you go, it's a sparrow, and they go, but it's the sparrow. And I
Yeah, yeah,
haven't seen it, so I must go. And
yeah.
even if they just hear it, they'll be happy, and that's a lot of it. So Glynn is back here telling us a little bit today about birding in the United Kingdom, because all the Isles, like I know Wales, England,
Yeah, yeah.
Scotland, beautiful birding destinations, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the coastline of England, obviously we're an island, so we've got a very long coastline and we've got such a wide range of coastlines. So you've got everything from wading birds on the marshes right the way up to the rocky bits of Cornwall and Wales and Scotland. Yeah, so you've got so many different sorts of coastline to walk along and have a look for birds.
Yeah, and I remember when we came back, we were coming back to the States, but we stopped in the Channel Islands for a while, Nancy and I. We used to go hiking on the edge of the islands pretty much, just like your walking paths that you have. And we saw puffins for the first time. And we
Lo-
were like, oh my gosh. And we'd lived in England, but I don't think we saw puffins, but they were out in the wild and we're like, oh, there's puffins. So it
Yeah,
seems like puffins hang out in Wales. Yeah, Wales is more than England,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, it's Wales and in parts of Scotland you get puffins. I've never had any. I've never heard of any in Norfolk, but I mean the Welsh coast. I mean the little island that's just off Anglesey is actually called Puffin Island, and that's where they breed. So, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
one of the things that you can do is to get a. You can't go on the island because it's completely protected, but you can actually get a boat trip and go around the island and see all the puffins in the cliffs, where
Mm,
they breed. So these sort of things are fantastic because you're you're helping the local economy by visiting,
hmm
and you're not ruining the wildlife habitat because it's completely protected, and people are not allowed on the island. So
Oh.
it's a win-win for everybody. We get to see them, and the birds don't get harmed in any way. So it's perfect.
We just had that experience. We were driving from Asheville, North Carolina to Florida, and a national wildlife refuge, Harris Neck. Everyone, if you're near Savannah, south of Savannah, finally opened up. I think it was closed because Nancy and I would have been there before.
Hmm.
Unless it was our timing, I don't know, but suddenly we were there. It was just so easy access. And to our pure shock and delight, we ended up at this rookery for wood storks. And I mean, there was a heron right there at my feet. I was filming the heron. I haven't put any of this up yet on social media. I should do it
Right.
today. It's birding day. Um, but there were hundreds and hundreds and I'm not kidding, of these storks. And they helped with the rookeries and made like fake ones with the trees to help them come back because they were coming. And so now, I mean, you could just, as far as the eye could see, one bit of, tree, fake rookery thing, just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
full of white, you know, these birds. And the sounds they made they sounded like monkeys,
Yeah.
and it's just
It
such
is
a like,
amazing.
wow,
When
it's
when you've got
amazing.
a quantity of birds, it is totally amazing. When we sometimes see the swans, because in England,
Oh,
well, in the east coast of England, we're on a migration route as well. So we
mhm,
get the swans that come into an area called Welney Marshes, and the swans come down there, and that's where they migrate
mm,
through. And one day we were going to see our son in Peterborough, which is up that way. And as we were driving through, Diane said, "What on earth is on that field?" Because it was a green field, but
mhm.
it was white, and they were swans. The
No way.
swan,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
the swans had obviously gone to Welney Marshes where they were fed because they feed them to attract them during the migration. But then after they're fed, they then go out into the countryside, and this flock of swans had descended on this farmer's field. So obviously he was not very pleased. But for us, what a sight! There were
Wow.
literally hundreds of swans on this field, and that was
It's
just amazing.
but swans, and if you've seen them, I mean, they do. They're pairs. They do stay together, like
Oh, they
as
do,
a
yeah,
pair for
yeah,
life.
yeah.
And I've seen swans with their little babies on the mama's back. Have you seen that? Where
Oh, yeah, yeah, yes,
their wings are curved around. I mean, it's
yeah.
just wow. I mean, that's when you look at nature and go, "You're magnificent."
Oh,
Really.
yeah. Swans are just something, aren't they?
They're
They
just they really make us think about how I don't know, we just don't have class like swans.
no, swans are
They have
regal.
style.
Yeah, I always call them regal because they just look
Yes.
regal. They really do. They're beautiful, beautiful creatures.
Oh man.
No,
No,
yeah,
you're talking about quantities, but you
yeah.
have the murmurations that happen in
Oh,
your
yeah.
area.
Yeah, on the northwest Norfolk coast, we get a lot of what they call murmurations, which is, I mean, you know how you get aircraft that fly in sequence, like the red arrows, and that they
Hmm.
fly in a pattern. Well, these birds, literally thousands of them, will all take off and go up in the air, and they will fly round and round in in sequence. And this is a moving cloud of birds. And how they do it, I don't know. How could if there was 27 of us running around a playing field or a football pitch,
We'd all fall into each other.
we'd knock into each other.
Are
But
we back to
birds,
style?
these birds are flying in the sky. So not only are they're not in two dimensions, they're in three dimensions because they got the height as well as the width, haven't they? Because we're only on the
Hmm.
ground, but they're in the air, so they could be at any height, and they don't hit each other. How do they do it? When there's thousands of birds and they go you see this massive cloud of birds moving in sequence. How
It's
does how
it's
does the
awesome.
one next door know what the other bloke is gonna do? I just don't
Right.
get it.
It I
Amazing.
love it, I wanted to ask too, with being able to watch them because they look like they're doing a choreograph like a
Yes,
dance.
yes.
Somebody planned it, but it's not. I mean, it's that gracefulness,
Oh,
and it's
absolutely. And
I've seen
I
little
still
of that.
I can't get my head around how they do it, you know? How
Mm.
does the one behind him know where he's going? Yeah.
It's well, we could get bird specialists on, I suppose, to tell us all about that.
Yeah,
But it's
I mean,
like to me,
I would be interested.
there's a sound that comes
Oh,
with it too.
yeah, the noise.
Hmm.
Noise of a flock of birds. I mean, we often get a flock of geese coming over, and they always fly in formation, in a V.
Oh,
Don't A
hmm.
flock of geese always fly in a V, and you hear it before you see it. You hear this sort of woof, 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 woof,
Yep.
and the noise is just amazing. I'm talking about noise. We had a couple of years, well, several years ago, we had a swarm of bees and we could hear it coming, and
Wow. In
it
England, huh?
landed in the hedge of our neighbours behind us, and you could
Ooh,
hear this amazing drone noise, and it was bees. You know,
wow.
just amazing. Nature is amazing, isn't it?
It really is, and the sound part is so important for birding. A lot of birders, that's how you're not always looking for the color and the feathers, and because
No.
birds are tricky too, because of the juveniles to identify.
Yes.
So there's a lot of apps that you can use, like iNaturalist has Seek on your phone, and they have little challenges too. And you can,
Yeah.
eBird, which is and Merlin, those are all apps that people use to track what they're seeing, but it also helps scientists, and it's being part of a citizen scientist. So it
Yes.
helps people know, scientists that are working on things on how the populations are doing. It helps
Yeah.
them know what's going on. So I love that, and a lot of travelers, that's what they're doing when they go out. But they're really looking for birds more by sound, depending on the species, but in majority
Yes.
by sound first before
Yeah,
sight.
well, you obviously will hear a bird before you see it,
Hmm.
because so many birds are so well camouflaged that you don't actually see them until you start looking for them. So
Yeah.
you can hear something and then you think, right, I need to find out where that sound is coming from. But
Or if you're going early in the morning, you just look for worms. I'm just kidding.
if you go early in the morning, the sound of birds in
Oh, it's
the
awesome.
dawn is deafening. It
Oh,
really is.
the
It's
dawn's
amazing.
chorus.
Yeah, but I don't know whether you have it in America, but the RSPB in England, the Royal Society of Protection of Birds, um, we have an annual weekend
Mm.
where we do a garden bird watch.
Oh, that happens in Christmas time here.
I don't know when we do it. Diane always does it, I
Mm.
know. And she has to sit in the dining room, for instance, and just look out on the back garden for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and let them know how many birds and whatever she's seen. And that is a good way for us as a country to see
Mm.
what is happening to the garden bird population,
That's
because
incredible.
it changes. We
Hmm.
had a time where we didn't have very many sparrows in the garden. You know, what happened, we don't know, but there weren't very many sparrows. Now
Cats.
they've come back. It could have been the hawks. We have
Hmm.
sparrowhawks. We have buzzards.
Oh.
We have all those things. So
Mm.
to see the number of birds that we get in the garden will give a good idea to the RSPB about what's actually happening out there. It's amazing.
Yeah, here they talk about not letting cats out because cats will get the birds. And so, which is hard because cats want out. They don't want to be indoors all the
Oh,
time. And
good.
so
Yeah,
everyone does what they need or want to do. So
yeah.
I'm just saying it's just a thing, but you know, it changes according to climate, what's happening with migration. And then it also goes with, are you a dark sky area? So I don't know where we have a big movement for dark skies. I think right now it's International Dark Sky Week. And it's about not leaving lights on outside at night because it
Mhm.
disturbs migration of birds
Yeah,
because they do migrate at night. And it ruins what's happening with the insects and all kinds of
yeah,
things. In
yeah.
fact, light pollution is a big
Oh,
deal. So is
terrible.
sound
Yeah.
pollution.
Yeah, light pollution is awful. I mean, we're lucky in our village, we don't have street lights.
Mhm.
And there isn't a lot of light in the area anyway. There's some street lights in our local town, obviously, but we don't have a lot of light pollution in this area because we're in the middle
Mhm.
of the countryside. But light pollution is terrible, and you especially notice that if you fly,
Mhm.
when you go on holiday or when you fly somewhere, the if you're flying at night time, the light down on the ground is just
Mhm.
unbelievable. I don't know why we bother. Why we got
Yeah.
so much light. I can understand we need some light for safety and that, but it's just too much. And
Mm.
especially when you go into a city at night time and you see these great big tower blocks that have got all the lights on. Why have they got all these lights on if there's nobody in them, office blocks and that.
That's what they're saying is, it's really not good for it. And so a lot of smaller areas, small towns do a good job. And
Mm,
that's really where I mean, cities, when they have urban parks and things like that helps.
yeah.
But I mean, when you look at England, you're still going to see birds in London, right? You're going to still see
Oh,
them because you've
yes.
got a waterway.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
got parks,
Yes.
and gardens. So that's a good thing. I think what adds to your area is that you have gardens, you do have parks. You've got
Yes.
places like the Lake District, you've got countryside, you've got the coast. And then I know like the lakes and river areas, I know you like that because that's where you get to see
Mm,
your kingfishers.
absolutely. I mean, the lovely thing about England is that apart from London, Birmingham, Manchester, probably Liverpool, Glasgow, Edinburgh, that's probably about it for big cities. Most of
Yeah.
our cities are not massive cities. Most of our cities you can drive across in 20 minutes. We're not like even, America or Canada or whatever, where you can drive for a day and you're still in the same city. It's some of these cities are absolutely huge,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I've been
we
places where
haven't
you
got,
go 5 miles and it will take you 15 to 20 minutes.
yeah. I mean, in England, like for instance in Norwich, you could actually walk across the city. It wouldn't take you that long to walk from
Mm,
one edge of the city to the other. Whereas, for
nice.
instance, when we were in Canada, you wouldn't even like to think about walking across Toronto.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so we don't have that sort of thing apart from sort of like London. London
Yeah.
obviously is a different thing, but most of our cities are within a few miles of the countryside.
Mm,
So you're never ever far from lovely countryside. And even if you're in the middle of the country, you're still only a couple of hours from the coast because
yeah.
we're not a massive country. As I was saying to you before the program, I'm actually going to Cardiff on Tuesday, which is basically from the east coast to the west coast at one of the widest points, and that's probably going to take me about 4.5 hours to drive. You know,
Nothing.
that's across the country, and,
Yeah.
and four and a
That's
half hours.
amazing.
Mm,
Amazing. Well, would you say like for people that are going bird watching is maybe taking, there's obviously the areas like the Norfolk Broads that we talk
yeah,
about that
yeah,
is a big birding destination and
definitely.
broads not being women. Um, I just, we always have to say that.
We do.
But you've got places that, all these walking paths like Petter's Way
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and right now spring, fall, that's a good time, even summer, right, is to get
yes,
out. And so the
yeah.
walking paths may be one of the better places.
Well, they are, especially the long distance coastal paths, because they're going to take you through a lot of different countryside and a lot of different habitats, and you'll see different types of birds.
Mhm.
But what you could do if you wanted to make sort of a different type of a holiday is you could do a bit of leapfrogging. So you could do a bit of the southern path, coastal path, for instance.
Okay.
Then you could get on a train or even a bus. Our bus routes are really good, and then travel up to Norfolk and go and have a look at the Broads, and then you could get on a
Ooh.
bus or a train and then go to Lincolnshire and walk along their coast, which is different to the southern coast. And then you could go up to Yorkshire and go across the Yorkshire Dales and have a look at that type of habitat, then come back across country and then go through Wales and see the mountains and Anglesey, which is, where the puffins are. So I mean, you could actually do a lot of leapfrogging. So you could have a base for a couple of days, do some walking, travel to the next
Yeah.
bus and do some more walking. So a multi a multi I don't know, multi-base, a multi-base
Yeah.
holiday would be quite easy to arrange. And like I say, we're not far, a couple of hours and you're in a different part of the country. That's the lovely
So
thing
cool
about
though.
England.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so nice about it. You
Mm.
know, just you can really you don't have to have a car, or you could take a car and
Yeah.
road trip, but you could go by, with you could take people. Would
Well,
you do
yeah.
that? Would you help people do that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is the sort of thing I do, but what I'm saying is that people can do that on their own if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that difficult to arrange.
Mm.
Obviously you got to have your wits about you. But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing I can do is drop them at one point and pick them up at another point. So they do their 4 mile walk or whatever they want to do, have lunch, go to another area, have another 4 mile walk, and then go to your hotel. Simple,
Mm.
you know.
Nice. And if you stay at a bed and breakfast, a lot of them, you could go to those big estates, right? Those, country estates and castles and all of
Yeah,
that, stay in history and then walk. I
yeah.
mean, are there still areas where you can see pheasant and that kind of
Every day I see a pheasant. In fact,
what?
the other day, we were going over to my mum's and we saw three black pheasants, which we don't normally see many black pheasants. We see the normal pheasants every day, but we saw three black pheasants, and then the other day I saw a white pheasant, which is another
Wow.
unusual thing to see.
I remember
Uh,
seeing orange ones. Maybe that was in a zoo.
or a golden pheasant.
Golden. Yeah, there you go. Well,
I've
they're,
seen I've seen one golden pheasant when I was a child, and it
yeah.
was amazing. But yeah, I mean they're in zoos. You can see golden pheasant, and I have seen them in zoos. I actually did see one in the wild,
Oh,
which
wow.
is totally amazing. But
Those colors are incredible. It's like a peacock.
Yeah, but I mean the normal pheasant, if you actually look at a normal pheasant, their colors are amazing. They've got a beautiful iridescent blue,
Mm-hmm.
and their cheeks are so red, it's unbelievable. It's like a red lipstick red, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean. You know,
yeah.
A Betty Boop. A Betty Boop.
There you go. Betty Boop birds. I know, right? Well, and then we've got to talk about owls, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now, wait a minute. Before we get to owls, what about falconry? Do people do falconry? Because
Oh
isn't that
yeah.
more Scotland and that area
No,
where
no,
they have falcons?
we do it here as well. I mean, there's a falconry place in Holt, which is just up the road from me, where you can go and see how they fly falcons, because they do that. They used to do it years ago to catch rabbits. That's what they used to do. They used to fly the bird to catch the rabbit, for meat. But
Mhm,
now they just do it for sport. And you see a
mm,
bloke with a falcon, and someone else with a lure, which is a piece of meat on a string or a piece of rope, and he
mhm.
twirls it around his head like a lasso, and the falcon will come along and whoosh and grab
No,
hold of a bit of meat. Yes, I
just
mean they're amazing, and yeah, you can see that in England.
oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
falcons are still there, but the owls, the barn owls, that's a,
Oh yeah,
I know you like them.
I
Hmm.
love owls. They are just
Mm,
so beautiful. Especially when you see the owls flying. There is you can tell it's an owl even if you don't know it's an owl,
hmm.
just the way it swoops, just the way it flies. And it you get them, in the evening time when it's just getting dusk, and they are just beautiful. They
Oh,
really love
I love
owls.
seeing owls. It's just that their sound, sometimes you hear them at night or
Yes, yeah,
early morning, when you're
yeah.
not supposed to be awake, but we all are.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those of us
We
who
get
are
them.
like me. Mhm.
Yeah, we get owls at the back of us. And
Oh,
we don't
really?
normally see them, but you can hear them in the morning.
Mm,
Definitely.
I love that. It's like, yeah, that's why we called night owls, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
quite
know,
because
because you're a night owl because you send in articles. I'm like, what are you doing up, Glenn? And then you tell me that, like, what are you
yeah,
doing up? I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, sometimes I get an email from you and I think, well, that must be about 4 o'clock where you are.
It's like, what is going on there? Well, but I like to be awake when the world is still because you
Mm.
hear the beginnings of nature wake up.
Oh yeah,
It's like the end that in between zone where
yeah,
some go to sleep and some wake up. I love those times.
yeah,
So that's a special thing. So that's where the owls come in, and then you
yeah.
start hearing the songbirds and things like that. And you've got songbirds too.
The birds in the garden, as I said, that they in the morning they are deafening. The noise
Mhm.
that birds make
I
in the
love that though.
morning. Yeah, but the noise is unbelievable because
They're
there's
like,
nothing
get
else
up.
going on. There's nothing
Yeah.
else going on apart from the birds, and they are making so much noise. You cannot believe that these little tiny birds are making so much noise, but they
No.
do, and it is the best time of day to actually just experience that.
Mm,
Nature is wonderful.
mm,
I'm not actually a birder or a bird watcher as we call them, but I just appreciate wildlife.
yeah.
To get up first thing in the morning and just open the bedroom window and just hear the noise out there is just it
The
just
best way
reminds
to
you you're
wake
not
up.
alone. You're not alone in the world.
No, no, it's the best way to wake up. And then even just like going to a park and seeing ducks. I
Mm,
love ducks. I really love ducks.
yeah,
They're characters. They're
they
water
are.
monkeys. They
Yeah,
are.
I mean, we are fortunate in that we've got so many wild ducks, but we've also got quite a few of the more colourful ducks as well in
Mm,
parks and ponds, because so many of the big stately homes, the big houses, the lords and ladies, they brought in lots of really pretty ducks and geese for their ponds. And of course, they bred and got out into the wild. So we've got a lot of different ducks that
mm.
you see in the local park, and
That
like
aren't
you
supposed
say,
to necessarily be there, but they're there now. Yeah.
yeah,
They're
they're
immigrants.
just lovely. Yeah, they're immigrants. Yeah, but Yeah, they mix with all the locals, and I don't actually know whether we've got any actual English ducks, but I know we've got a lot of ducks.
Now I've got that song from the Kinks, Ducks on the Wall. Sorry. I,
I don't know that one.
it's a good song. I'll
Is it?
send it to you.
Yeah.
Ducks on the Wall. Yeah. Yeah. Birds are good. Ducks on the Wall. The Kinks. They're a good band. One of the best. Just
Wow.
saying. You know.
You're
All
showing your
right.
age.
Well, we started with the bird's the word, you know.
Yes, exactly. But
But
you haven't said anything about your little puffin behind you.
my puffin, yeah, isn't he cute? He's
Isn't
gonna
he
peck my
gorgeous?
head in. Yeah. But seeing the puffin, I mean, that to me again is like one of those wow species. It's like
Yeah.
seeing a toucan in the wild. I want to see a toucan. Now I know you don't have them in England, but
No, we don't. No.
I want to see one in the wild. It's when we lived in South Africa in Kenya, we had hornbills. It's just the
Oh
way
yeah.
their beaks are. Look how
Yeah.
bright that beak is.
Yeah. Well, I remember one day I'd been out and I came home and Diane said, "We've had a bird in the garden that has must have escaped from the zoo." So I said, "Well, what did it look like?" And she explained it to me, and I said, "Well, that sounds like a jay." And if you look it up, a
Mhm.
Jay, they are absolutely
Blue.
beautiful. The blue, yeah.
Yeah,
But
we have
you
them
know,
all over
Diane
this
had never
country.
seen one before, but we've got certain different types of jay, and the magpie, they're black and white. But if you look at a magpie, which is black and white, they're the same
Mhm.
family as a jay.
Yes, and there's a
And
mag jay.
oh,
So no,
we
so
don't
we
have them.
get magpies in certain parts of the country going
Right.
up in the west, and I love magpies. And then there's one area that they have magpies. Can't remember the right species name, but it's got a little green in it. It's
Oh, right.
absolutely beautiful. It's out in Central California.
Well,
And
we have black and white magpies,
those
but
are
actually,
beautiful too.
if you look close at them, they're actually a blue. The black
Yes,
is
they have
very
that
blue.
iridescent. Yeah, they
Yeah,
have that iridescent. We have them like in Rocky Mountain National Park. I've seen them, and
right.
um, but there's mag jays,
Yeah,
and
we
I
we have
saw this in Mexico. We saw them in
oh,
Mexico when we lived out there. I was like, "What is that? It looks like a magpie. Looks like a almost a peacock, but it's not a peacock. Just it's bigger, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it is a blue jay mixed with a magpie. And I can't remember the whole story behind it, but I got all into it. And I can't
right,
remember if they bred or if it's a cousin or whatever, but
right. Yeah,
they're
but I mean,
amazing.
some of the birds that we've got in the wild are just amazing. Like the bullfinch. The bullfinch is a fantastic little bird. He's only tiny, but
Yeah.
the color of the bullfinch is absolutely amazing. And
Hmm.
even little things like the robin and the blue tit,
I
they are
love them.
lovely little birds. And they
Oh.
and one of my favorites is the wren because he's tiny, he's only that big, and
Mm.
he's got his little tail sticking up in the air, and he's just beautiful. Or she, I don't know. I think they're both the same. Like robins. Robins are both the same. I just hope they know which is which.
I think there's male and I don't know, but the wrens, we have wrens over here.
Right.
So there's one in the Carolinas called the Carolina wren, and it's small. But then when you go to the desert, they're a little bit bigger and a little bit more speckled. And we have like the cactus wren, and it
Right.
lives basically. They make nests in the cactus, little round little nests, and they go after all the bugs and everything on the cactus, which is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. So they're really busy when the cactus season, flower season happens too.
Right.
So do you get doves?
Oh yeah, doves. Yeah, yeah. We have
Yeah.
we have the white doves, but
Wow. See, that's
we
amazing.
also have
That's different for us.
yeah, well,
White doves.
they're sort of more or less like a fantail dove.
Uh-huh.
So instead of their tail being sort of straight behind them, it's like a fan over their back. That's a fantail dove. They're white, and then we have the sort of like the ring neck doves, which has
Oh
got
yeah,
a little black ring round its. I don't know why I'm pointing to you. You know where a neck is, don't you?
I think so. It's
Yeah,
it's
well
got
there
a
you go.
necklace.
They have a little black ring round their necks, and they're lovely little birds again. But
Yeah.
we just have got so many. And I remember I had a group over once, and one of the men was a birder, and he was absolutely thrilled to bits. I think he had 24 firsts by the time he finished with me. So
Oh my gosh.
he
That's
was
a
thrilled to
that's
bits.
happiness.
Yeah, yeah, he was absolutely thrilled to bits.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, do you get egrets and herons?
We get herons.
Oh,
We get eagles in Scotland. We don't get eagles in England unless I don't think we've got any in Wales yet. But I know they're reintroducing some of the eagles into Scotland. But yeah, we
oh,
have herons. We have a lot of herons. In Norfolk, they're called a hanser. The Norfolk word
oh,
heron is a hanser because
oh, okay.
Norfolk's got its own words for lots of things.
You've got your own language and
Our
nicknames.
own language.
Yes, you do. Well, but I was saying egrets, egrets, egrets. They're like white herons.
Oh yes, yeah, we do have them on the coast, I think.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
and you get grebes and loons and
yeah,
well, if
yeah.
the loons are there, we're gonna follow suit.
Well, yeah, we're going that way, aren't we?
What about the coots? Do you have
Oh
the
yeah,
old
we have
coots?
coats. We have little coats. Yeah, they're lovely. We get a lot of them on the Broads, actually.
Yeah, they love they're total water birds. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. When you
That's
said
great.
egret, I thought you meant a baby eagle, but
But eagles, yeah, but I yeah, it's a good question either way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
We
yeah,
have eagles in Scotland. They're reintroduced, so
but
that's
so
good.
hawks, falcons, that's great that they're reintroducing them
Yes,
in
yeah, yeah.
Scotland.
There's lots of places now where they are protecting a lot of species because we had all these birds, and now we're trying to get them back again. I mean,
Mm.
there was one, the bittern is
Oh
a
yeah.
bird that used to be in the Norfolk Broads quite a lot, and they then started to do a reintroduction, and now they're actually getting to be not common, but they are now being seen in more
Mm.
places. So the bitterness coming back as well. So, you know, we are now working with nature to help it get back to where it could be.
Mm. That's awesome because when you think that's what we've got here, we've got bitterns and they're related to the heron.
Right. Yeah, they would be. Yeah.
Yeah, and but we've got like the American bittern, brown bittern, I think it is. They're beautiful birds, and when you see them, you feel lucky that you've seen them. You
Yeah.
know, I always just love to watch birds. I don't care what it is. I don't care
No.
if it's a dove. I don't. I just love watching them. Where we are right now, we have monarch butterflies everywhere,
Oh,
which
wow.
is amazing. It's
Just
absolutely
the
beautiful.
colors.
Yeah. Now, do you get butterflies in England, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Loads of them. We have red admirals and, all
Oh, it
sorts.
has to be an admiral, doesn't it?
Of course.
Oh dear, Lottie has to be royal. But admirals are beautiful. They
Yeah,
really
they
are.
are. I mean,
Mm,
we have a lot of butterflies. You know, the thing is that when you live in the country, you're surrounded by all this stuff all the time. And like I said, I'm not into birds. I'm not really into butterflies. I just appreciate what I see. I don't know what they are, but I
mm,
appreciate what I see. Um, and you're just surrounded by it all the time.
mm.
And
Yeah.
that is what is just so amazing
And
that
we
I
can't
can
take it for granted. That's the
no,
thing.
I can share it with people,
Mm,
and to be able to for this man who came here and had all these firsts, he was jumping up and down like a child when he saw something different. To me, that was just another bird, but to him, that was something really special, which is brilliant. That's what I like.
that's
I
awesome.
like helping people to find what they want to find.
Mm. Well, I think the best bird of all is the seagull. You got to hold on to your chips when you go to
Oh,
the beach.
and how there isn't a bird called a seagull. They're actually all different types of gull. So you get a
Right.
black-headed gull and a this gull and a that gull, but there isn't a bird called a seagull. But
That's true.
they are a nuisance on the
I
coast.
like them.
Yeah, they're all right until they eat your chips, like you say.
Yeah. They'll
And
eat
they're
your
very,
chips.
very
They'll sit on
big.
your car.
They are big. And
Hmm.
I know that when we were on holiday, uh, last year before with the grandchildren and my children. So we all went as a family. We had two caravans, mobile homes,
Yeah, there we go
and
for yeah, America. Yeah.
in the first thing in the morning, you heard this on the roof, and a seagulls walking on the roof of the caravan. They sounded as if they
They're
had
waiting for breakfast.
no, they sounded as if they had hobnail boots on.
Yeah, yeah.
They were walking on the roof. Really noisy, heavy, great big things they are.
They're beautiful. Their markings are
Oh yeah, they are,
spectacular.
but not when you're eating chips.
They want your chips.
They
They
want
do. They want your sandwiches. They want your chips. They better
your
not
ice
touch the
cream.
Mr. Whippy.
Exactly. You got to be careful with Mr. Whippy.
Ice cream, Mr. Whippy, everyone. Just to be clear. Well, Glynn, it's always fun talking nature with you and talking about England. So everyone, norfolk-tours.co.uk. If you want to go to England and put some birding in your
Mhm.
adventures, call Glynn or email him if you're in the States. Contact him and he will work with you on that. And we've got a great article from you, and that is linked in the episode notes. And you can also find it on blendradioandtv.com for all our birders
Mhm.
out there. So take a look at that and he'll get some great suggestions on where to go. Glynn,
Yes.
happy birding day because every day's a birding day.
Every day's a birding day here, I tell you.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much and happy spring.
Yeah, and you speak to you later.